Happy Diwali in advance to all of you. Uh, Today we had a topic on frauds under GST from department perspectives and the manner of detection and investigation. I welcome you all. Respected Sunil G. Solanki, Speaker of the Day, CA Manish Gadia ji, RCM Regional Council Member of WRCI, seniors and friends. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this interesting lecture meeting, perhaps an innovative one. There are many seminars and webinars on GST we all have attended, and I am sure I am not come across the content of the similar lecture. Today meeting is to how to unearth the fraud under GST, a department perspective, identifying the red flag, and I think there couldn't have been the better timing of this event when, especially considering the fact that we all are full-fledged in the GST audit with the due date now extended. We have in the recent past seen the faces of newspapers and headlines wherein we have seen that the GST authority have to act tough and at the time arrest few business peoples and industrialists. Various types of fraud also do happen in the GST, and at the time we reflect why do this fraud happen. And the same were not happening in the indirect tax regime. Some of the frauds are like bogus bill, circulating bill have been done in the past. And we all consultants and also the department are now well versed in how to handle the same. When we look at the content of the GSTR1, the data which the government has and the way they try to identify the sources and the culprit, it is going to be very interesting to understand what the new method which the government is want to do all with this. So for this topic, we want someone to speak and have the departmental experience, and someone also who will has to willing to share the same. So for this today we had the speaker with us, CA Sushil Solanki ji. Before starting, sir, I request Regional Council member CA Manish Gadia ji to kindly share his words.
Thank you, Amish. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And I have seen that Andheri Oshiwara Study Circle is always one of the very active study circle as far as Western region is concerned. And we always at Western India Regional Council, we always look for a support from Andheri Oshiwara Study Circle. And if I see the past convener and the current convener, all are really, really working very hard for the interest of the profession. And this year, what I observed since June onwards, when the virtual meeting started, Amish is bringing all the speakers across India and all the best speaker, I should say, across India. And the topics are also really very, very innovative. So today's topic is also really very innovative, and I want to attend this topic. This is, I think, for the first time this kind of topic has been chosen by any of the POU for deliberation. So I called Amish. Amish, I want to attend this session, especially the Solanki sir, because I know him personally and he is really very knowledgeable and very sharp. And if you see in the service tax era also, we used to see the year 2000 audit. So that form itself, he is the biggest, I can say, a contributor to that. And I attended when he was a commissioner of service tax Mumbai. I attended the case also. So he was very fair to the SSC at that point of time also. And as of today also, whenever we are going for any advice, any consultancy, so we get the best advice. So he is the best speaker, I can say, on this topic. And topic is really good. Just only one thing is what I'm finding it, that I'm not supporting any fraud, because the fraud should not be there. And this fraud was happening earlier also. I'm not saying if fraud is good, but fraud should not happen. This is really, department should curb on that. I'm finding is that sometime, not always, but sometime department is exceeding their limit. And even if the SSC has not done any fraud, but he is cooperative, then also sometimes they are taking extreme steps of arresting the SSC. So if Solanki sir can also highlight in his presentation something on that, when arrest to be done, because once you do the arrest and immediately the media reports comes, then it will totally spoil the image of the businessman. And the businessmen, we have all experienced during this lockdown also, that ultimately अगर इकोनॉमी को चलाना है या देश को चलाना है, so इकोनॉमी तो बिजनेसमैन से ही आएगा. That what we have experienced also. So that should also department should realize कि whenever they feel कि नहीं ये पैसा नहीं निकल पाएगा, then they are doing arrest, then it's okay. But I found that many times SSC is daily coming to attend the summon also, then they are also arresting. To that, in my view, is little bit extreme. But definitely, fraud should be stopped under any circumstances, because ultimately it is damaging our economy. So with this few words, thank you very much, Amish, for giving me this opportunity. Over to you.
Thanks, Manish sir, to accept our invitation and also sharing your thoughts. I now request CA Anisha Sheikh to kindly introduce today's speaker. Anisha किधर है? One minute, she is not there.
Anisha is not there, Amish.
नहीं, उनको लगता है वो.
Anisha is there. Anisha?
I'm not able to unmute.
She is not able to unmute, yes.
1 minute. But she is not there actually. वो दिख तो नहीं रही इसमें मेरे को.
If she's typing, she's there.
No, she is there. She is unmuting herself. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Amish. Good morning to our speaker guest, Shri Sushil Solanki ji, our regional council member of WRC, Manish Gadia ji, and my professional colleagues. It's my honor to present an introduction of our eminent speaker on the topic frauds under GST, Department's Perspective Confirmation. Shri Sushil Solanki is a retired IRS officer who has worked in the Excise and Customs Department for more than 30 years. He has also worked as Principal Commissioner of Service Tax in Mumbai and Additional Director General in Central Excise Intelligence at Ahmedabad. He's a chartered accountant by qualification. He was one of the team members who drafted service tax law in 1994. Further, his eminence can be judged from the fact that he was part of Government of India's team for formulation of policies for introduction of GST in India for almost 8 years. For his distinguished services, he was conferred with prestigious Presidential Award in the year 2001. He is regularly faculty in Training Academy of Customs and GST Department, and he has also trained officers from tax departments of SAARC countries. During his stint in the government, he was directly involved in bringing a lot of changes in the functioning of government department by way of introduction of professional system of audit, simplification of various procedures, and removing anomalies by way of legislative changes. With this brief introduction, I invite Sushil Solanki ji to start with his presentation. Thank you. Amish?
Yes, 1 minute. Sir, can you unmute yourself?
Hello?
हाँ sir. एक मिनट.
Am I audible now, Amish?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. A very good morning to all of you. First of all, my sincere thanks to the Andheri Oshiwara CP Study Circle for inviting me to speak on this very interesting area because of my experience in the department. And before that, I must thank Amish for taking the initiative, talking to me, discussing with me the topic, how it should be structured, a lot of things we discussed. So once again, thanks to Amish for taking so much of interest for the professional colleague. Manish Gadia is my old friend. So again, I thanks Manish has joined today because as he said, he wanted to listen to our experience. So I also thanks Deepak Madlecha, Nikhil Porwal, and Anisha Sheikh, being all the member of the committee for organizing this only. Let me start with the presentation. We are almost now 11 o'clock. So what I proposed that around 1 hour, 15 minutes, I can have from my side the presentation. And the last 15 minutes we can keep for discussion. I hope that should be okay, Amish. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let me start with the presentation now. Now, first let's understand what is the need for this, 1 second, I'm unable to go ahead. 1 second, let me see what is happening. 1 second, please give me. Okay. What type of GST fraud the department is unearthing now? And the point raised by Manish that what should the response of the professionals like chartered accountant like you, whenever any extreme steps are taken by the department, apprehending arrest of a person, even though he is not directly involved. That last area I will cover in my last slide, which I have taken up for the arrest provisions also there. Now, the importance of this topic is what? First, let me give it 1 or 2 minutes only. All the speakers, you are the chartered accountants, you have seen the era prior to introduction of GST and post introduction of GST also. The difference you might be noticing that post introduction of GST, the detection of cases by the GST department are on rise. Not only numbers are rise, even the amount involved are phenomenal. I mean, it is somebody's beyond perception. Whenever I talk to the senior people in the department, my colleagues and friends, and whenever I go for seminar to the departmental officers also, one of the common things which I have been noticing, what people have been telling, that quantum of sort of a frauds, quantum amount involved of frauds are very, very high nowadays. Then the second question, what I have been talking to the officers regularly, that why is the reason now? What is the reason for such a large number of detections and reasons for cases involving such a huge amount now? There the importance comes, and there the importance of database comes. Now, I will discuss in great details what type of data they have it. But in one line, I can tell you now that because of the structure of GST, especially the filing of GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, and of course, GSTR 2A now, and the 360-degree profiling of the data and using of various tools, basically what they call mining tools, analysis tools, the department is in a position to unearth the evidence. The interesting part, what's happening, when I was in department, of course, we were also using a lot of data paid, and what data we were having, how much duty you paid in cash, how much duty you paid through the Sanvet credit. We used to take the data of 26 years from Income Tax Department. We used to take data from the VAT Department and some couple of more departments. We will take data and try to have a comparison. But we didn't have any systematic procedure available on all India basis. Suppose I was in Bombay, I was using the data of Income Tax and the VAT Department because I had a good tie-up with those officers now. But somebody sitting in Delhi may not have that much of knowledge or inclination to do it. That was not happening on a systematic basis. Now, with the new structure in the GST, the whole lot of data is available with the department now. And department has developed, I mean, it's beyond imagination what type of tools they develop now. And because of those tools, data and tools both, they are able to unearth so much of evasion. That's the basis. So how the department is able to unearth it, the first thing will be that what type of case they're detecting, what are tools available to them, what are reports available to them, and of course, remaining the things like arrest provision, etc. That I will take it. Okay. So what's some presentation topics, what I'll be covering, like important statistics, I will cover 2-3 minutes, just to give a brief highlight and total number of taxpayers, etc., etc. Then manner of detection of fraud by the GST department. Most important, the bogus bill cases, fake bill cases now, where invoices without supply of goods. But second is the bogus bill cases, export fraud detection. The huge number of export frauds have been detected. I will explain how they've detected now. Supply of goods without the invoices, fraud by the composite dealers, group company transaction where a lot of frauds are taking place. Then what are the department, what parameter they have for selection of non-filers, power of arrest, type of report generated by GST department for the purpose of detecting the evasions only. There's a few topics I'll cover it. Let me give the first important statistics now. In India, we got around 128 lakhs, 1 crore 30 lakhs approximately the GST registrants are there. And out of that, you can say around 65 were the old one, which were migrated from the VAT department or central excise and service tax and got into the GST department. New registration, around 63 lakhs people have taken the new registration now. And out of this 128, it's a very small number of 18 lakhs they are the people who have opted for composition. Whereas the general feeling among the people is that the composition, large number of people might have opted for composition, but it's not the fact. Only small number of people have opted for composition. The next two data are very important. What does the data say? GSTR 3B, only about 60 to 65% taxpayers are filing the GSTR 3B by the due date. It means almost around 35 to 40% people are not filing in time, basically. And out of that, 10 to 15% are filing late, and 20 to 25% are not filing GSTR 3B. The whole issue is, what are those 20 to 25% people? There might be some genuine people who might have taken the registration, they are no business, say they could not cancel it. But still, this 20 to 25% people who are not filing GSTR 3B, they are the target of the department. Why their target? We'll see further now. GSTR 1 returns. There is gradual reduction, decline in numbers basically. Means what I want to say that earlier, suppose say 70% people were filing. Now the numbers are going down now. This is a very alarming and surprising data. Why the people are not filing GSTR 1? Then 32% for people are not filed here. This is the data up to March 20, and this is a consistent data. Maybe 1 or 2% here and there. Quickly, I go to, there are taxpayers who are consistently filing return lates. Many are still showing different liability in GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. That whenever you go for, when you make the annual return GSTR 9 and when you do the audit, this point you also might have noticed it also. And as a chartered accountant, you might be struggling how to reconcile both GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B in order to reach. And then of course, along with the profit and loss account also, your financials also. So all three you have to do matchings, that you are doing it. The gap between ITC claimed in GSTR 3B and that accruing from GSTR 2A still persists. As per GSTR 2A, all your purchase invoices comes, and as per that, what is the ITC available to you? And what you means, I mean to say taxpayer, are claiming in GSTR 3B, still the gaps are there. ITC claimed is lower than ITC available. Means ITC available is 5 lakhs to me. I still claim only 2 lakhs rupees in my books. Why? There are certain reasons that will explain it. In comparison with the count of composite and taxpayer, the cash paid by them is very, very small. Taxpayers have prepaid e-way bill but have not filed GSTR 3B. It's another interesting aspect. Many places we found out. This is very quickly, I just want to say you that we got old data, not the current data. So you will find that out of all the SSAs now, you find that only 336, around 7% people are there whose turnover is more than 5 crore. So it means around 93% people in the country are having the turnover less than 5 crore. So 93% registrants are still below the 5 crore. So recent changes, what they've done about the increase the frequency of filing of returns and audit and everything. So you will realize this. I mean, if the government has given the benefit to the first 4 categories up to 5 crore, it means 93% taxpayers are covered. That's the important point I thought we must keep in mind. Because whereas sometimes the policy decisions people keep criticizing that why the government was monthly returns and why can't they do quarterly or 6 monthly, what was happening in the VAT era and all this thing. Look at the statistics. If something benefit has been given up to 5 crore, 93% people are covered. So that's the point you should have in mind on it. Now let me start with our main topic now. Okay, the bogus bill.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Okay, sir, I would like to interrupt you, sir.
Yeah,
Okay,
tell
sir,
me.
we are not able to see your presentation, sir. So if you have shared your presentation, sir, have you shared your presentation?
Yeah, it is there. I thought you'll be able to see it. It's not there.
No, no. Yeah, no, sir, no, sir. We are not able to see it, sir.
Oh, it's a good thing you told me. 1 second, I'll just go back on this screen
Yes, sir.
again and let me. A good thing you told me. Sorry, I'm extremely sorry for this. Share the screen now.
Sir, it is coming. Yes, sir. Now we are able to see, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
I think you missed out. Anyway, that was the most important point. So from here
Okay,
we're
sir.
starting. Good. Thanks for reminding me, Deepak.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sorry for
So-
interruption, sir.
No, it's always better. No, otherwise the purpose is lost. If anything you're missing, please feel free to call me or feel free to tell me on the here only.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Let's start with the first part now. I think the data will be that okay. Should anybody want to have the data, I can just show very quickly the data again. Or is that okay? I suppose that's okay now. Let's go now. Otherwise, time will be short for the main presentation. The bogus bill, why and how now? Let me take the first side now. Why the people want to have bogus bill? Availment of input tax credit without receipt of goods and services. Naturally, you want to take benefit of the input tax credit and use that money for the purpose of payment of taxes, financial benefit. Second, all the chartered accountant, all of us are knowing, to increase the turnover for higher valuation for share market. Most people are doing the circular trading or whatever reasons. We want the bogus bill in order to increase the turnover. For bank overdraft facility, overcome NPA status. Many of you also might be knowing it that if you want any limits, whether CC limits or OD limits, if your turnover is high, then you can get a higher one. Overcome NPA status. I found and some cases, and even during the investigation, sometimes very interesting aspect came. Your account is going to become NPA. That time, with the help of with the connivance of the bank, etc., the bogus bills are taken by the people, and those are discounted from the bank. So bank give the money, so that money is utilized for payment of interest or whatever. So in order to overcome NPA status, also the bogus bills are being taken, which is again a rampant thing, and we have noticed and some of the big companies also have been doing. Financial difficulties, yes, and encashment of accumulated ITC basically. This point I will cover in detail, that if some people are having a lot of input tax credit available with them, so by issue of bogus bill, you can encash it basically. Now, remaining thing, first 4 or 5 what I was talking was receipt of bogus bills basically. The last one is that people issue the bogus bill in order to encash the accumulated ITC. So that was the reason. Now, how it is happening? I mean, most of the things are known to you. A give a bill to B, B to C, C to D, D to E also. But sometimes the A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, and again come back to A. The circular trading, what we all of us know. The A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, and E is the exporter. Last one is the exporter of the goods or exporter of services basically. And there the rampant, and many cases the department has found out where the people have claimed the export benefits, where the tax was paid using the credit from the bogus bills. I will go in much more details in the next slides. And in such cases, how it was happening that A does not file the return and does not pay the GST and vanishes, but B to E they file the returns. So A is a dummy company basically, or the fly-by-night operators are there. They're the first one, they don't file the return, they don't pay the GST, but from there onward, B, C, D, E, they do file the return, they do pay the taxes, but they pay the taxes by utilization of the credit which they got from the bogus bills. E pay the taxes. This is a possibility. He may disclose in his return to, but raises invoice without supply of goods. There, all of you might be knowing it that the B category is the category where goods goes to one person and the bill goes to second person. This is what in the second category, what I am referring here also. A is paying the tax, discloses in his return to, but raises the invoice without supply of goods. Okay, mostly to increase the turnover or the bank facilities. The circular trading case also comes. A issues invoices to B, who takes credit, but goods are given to C without invoices. That's same thing. I was telling the goods goes to the one person, bill goes to somebody else then. And many such transactions done through through the middlemen. In the market, you might be finding that there are a lot of middlemen available in the market who does help in issuing and getting those so-called fake businesses. Why I'm saying important this aspect, that number of time department is able to detect, because they are able to catch hold of those middlemen, and from their records, from their diaries or whatever it is, and ultimately with the pressure of department, they do confess, yes, my job was only to get 1% or 0.5% or whatever the fixed amount, where I have only helped in getting the bogus bill and issue of the bogus bills. This is the bogus bill. I'll go in greater details, because if we see from 2018 onward until now, basically 2 to 2.5 year period, basically, the 70 to 80% cases the GST department has detected in regarding bogus bills. And quantum varies. I mean, there are different estimates, and I was talking to the highest people in the investigation wing of the department, and something around 30,000 to 35,000 crore of the duty involved, and not a value, that the bogus bills cases have been noticed by the department. It's a different story now, that what happens when they count 35,000 or 40,000 crore rupees of GST evasion, they might be take the same value. Suppose A has issued a bogus bill of 1 crore rupees involving 18 lakhs rupees as the duty. So B is also 18 lakhs like this 5. So 18 lakhs has become 90 lakhs when it changed the hand up to 5 period only. So it's possible that 35,000 or 40,000 crore what they're talking about, it might be on account of this. This is the one of the reason. So anyway, the fact is that it is happening, and this is the reason now. Let's come to next now. Okay, now let me come here. Okay, now manner detection now. First thing I explained to A to B, B to C, C to D to A. A does not pay tax and do not file return, but B to E files return. I already explained to you. E may claim refund of X. I'm not, sorry, some typing mistake there. What is DMD? DMD is short from Department's Methodology for Detection. How the department is able to detect it. Some of the points must be known to you. The later portion you will come to will be very surprising what type of reports department is getting that. In the case of bogus bill now, in earlier regime, people from Bombay, and of course now today I think 80-90% speakers are from Bombay only. If some of you remember, in the year 2000, if I'm not mistaken, 9, 10, 11, in one of the 2 years, the VAT department in Bombay had unearthed a large number of cases of bogus bill. And there the returns, whatever number, I don't know what the name of the returns was there, on comparison certain data, from the data itself, they were able to detect these appears to be the probable cases of the bogus bill. And many of the people were given the notices, and based upon the data of the VAT department, even the income tax department have given the notices for disallowing the deduction for those purchases by those people. Now the beauty is that now, when I was in department, number of times we used to get informer also. Yes, sir, in this company some bogus bills are going on now. But now the beauty of the GST is that they are able to detect the cases based upon the information and data available to them official. They don't wait for the informer to come now. And with my interaction with the departmental officer, I can say 95% cases in GSTism is being detected based upon the analysis of data available with the department. This is the very interesting aspect now. So as a chartered accountant, you have to be very, very careful, and you have to emphasize to your clients, department is watching you from all sides. It's very difficult nowadays to do the manipulation. That's what thought I will highlight now. Let me come to the point now here. Analyze the data of non-filers of GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. Okay. What happened now? As I was telling you, suppose A to B, B to C, C to D, and ultimately to E. In this case, A is the one person. He is the fraudster. Of course, remaining people are also party to it also. He is the person, he takes the registration, keep issuing the invoices for 3, 4, 5 months, close the business, and vanishes basically. So in that case, if the department is able to detect that, yes, there is a person called A who is not been filing after taking registration, is not been filing GSTR1 and GSTR3B regularly for 3, 4, 5 months, they will try to catch hold of it now. Now, it's not only the one type of data, the non-filers, because there will be non-filers, there will be large number of people who are not filing returns. So out of that large number of people now, who are the probable evaders now? There comes the beauty of the reports available with the department now. One is that somebody does not file GSTR1 and GSTR3B both. There are few people who doesn't file only GSTR3B. But the next question comes now. Even though A is not filing GSTR1, but if the B is taking credit, or even if many cases, what's happening, they are filing GSTR1, people are filing because they are showing all the invoice wise transaction. This is the sale, but they don't file the GSTR3B now. Okay. Now, in that case, they got another advantage that even though one person has not filed GSTR1 or they filed GSTR1, but based upon their invoices, if a large quantity of credit has been taken by B, that's available to department now. Okay. In that case, they will try to take, because suppose A is filed the GSTR1, it means that data is available at GSTR2A or B. Now, they say that yes, A has passed on the credit to say 5 people involving suppose for 5 crore rupees now. That information available to department because GSTR2A or B or B1 or B2 or B3 or B4 are available. From the data of B1 or B2 or B3, they found that yes, 5 crore of credit those 4 people have taken based upon the invoices of A, whereas A had not filed the GSTR3B, okay, or even GSTR1 even only. In that case, they will immediately catch on. The beauty here is that now that they are getting the information on a real-time basis at the end of every month. Say, for example, for the month of September 20, your last date of filing return is 20th of October. Say by first or second week of November, the officer will get a flash. Yes, this fellow appears to be a little risky. This A number 1 appeared to be risky because he has not filed the return, whereas he has passed on the credit of 2 crore rupees or 5 crore rupees. Since it is real-time information, within 3-4 months, immediately the department can catch hold of A and take the action. That is the important part. The real-time data availability in various, and now they, earlier I remember when I was there, we used to get the raw data. Okay, this is the person who has filed the return. In our time, suppose the service tax, I was there, ST3 returns on ER1 return, excise and both type of returns. We will get a broad data, dismiss the duty paid in cash, duty paid in through handbag credit, not much than that. There was no analysis of how much output or exempted goods and other information were not available there. Whereas now, all your information, GSTR1 and GSTR3 is being tabulated in various forms and various permutation combination. And that report comes to the officer on their table, on the desk, put, look, this SSC from your deduction A appears to be risky, please have a look. Or even the data comes to me, okay, there are, say, 200 people in your commissionates, and their data is that. You just run a small program or small thing, like an Excel, we put ascending, descending, whatever it is. You can merge 2 files, whatever. They found out, yes, A is a risky fellow. They can catch hold of A. So this is the first, analyze the data of non-filers who have not filed the GSTR1. And I'm come to second point, analyze data of non-filer of GSTR3B. Both the cases, even though somebody has filed GSTR1 or not filed GSTR1, both the cases, the list is available. And that is the best indicator for the department that there is possibility. It's not that all the people who have not filed GSTR1 3B are doing the bogus bill cases, but it's still the good possibilities there. Through this, they can find out there is a possibility of issue of the bogus bills now. Next is analyze GSTR2A of recipient and GSTR3B of suppliers. Now, same thing what I was telling you, the third is the offshoot of 1 only. GSTR2 recipient, like recipient is B in this case now. GSTR2A of B will show that he has received the goods for 5 crore rupees involving duty of 90 lakhs rupees, which is received from A, but A has not filed the return. Catch out of this, another point. Analyze the cases. Now I'm leaving this point. I'm coming to very interesting aspect of the third now. a very complete new angle now, which as a chartered accountant during an audit you should keep in mind. Analyze cases where full tax payment is full, or I can say substantial GST payment is done through ITC. And if it is coupled with sensitive commodities. Now there is something called e-way bill module, which has been developed by the central GST department, where all the data of the purchase and sale through the e-way bill, lot of information is captured by department. One of the important information which you should, all of you must keep in mind, is regarding HSN. Because when you file a GSTR1, there is no HSN available for all the sale made by you. When you file the GSTR3B, still HSNs are not available there also. Okay. Of the purchase and sales, both sides I'm talking about. Whereas this particular module, what department has developed, it gives a full picture of HSN wise total purchases, HSN by total sale of a person. It's a very interesting aspect. This report is not available to any one of you basically. This department gets it. Now, interesting aspect now. What I mentioned, e-way bill module provide information of HSN of inward and outward supply, even though not available in GSTR 1 and 3. Now you'll surprise that what I'm talking about. This is again case where the people take the credit based upon the bogus bills. Let me give you a live example what happened somewhere in Jalandhar side. A butter manufacturer taking credit on ghee. You know, all the butter which is going for industrial use now. You know, butter is also used for making the biscuits, and butter is also used for making sometime, you know, lot many other things also there. Eatables, and sometimes Ayurveda also goes there, everything. So there's a butter manufacturer and he was taking credit on the ghee now. Now, ghee was also taxable. So what happened? Normally, ghee is a end-use consumer. You and me consume the ghee. We don't require any GST bill. So what does butter manufacturer did it? Even though for the butter manufacturer, there were no taxable inputs is required there. Okay. So what this guy was doing, he will take the bills of the ghee, only the bills, take the credit, use that credit while payment GST on the butter. Now, for the butter and ghee, suppose there are two different HSNs are there now. This module will clearly show that yes, he is taking the credit on the ghee, which is suppose XYZ HSN, and the butter, which is the output, what he's manufacturing and selling, are different things also. Now, and sensitive commodities, again, butter is sensitive commodity because number of time butter goes in the do number ka business, and because lot many people doesn't require the bill for the butter, whether it's a biscuit manufacturer or bread manufacturer or whatever it is now, or the cookies and everything around. You know, it's a sensitive commodities. The department in this case, by doing the analysis, they found this guy is getting ghee, and ghee is never used for manufacture of butter now. Ghee is never used for manufacture of butter. Ghee is a parallel product like butter. Okay, so this data or HSN of the purchase and HSN of sales could result in making the clear-cut case. Department officer just went to the factory of this person and say, "Very gentlemen, how you are using ghee?" Sir, ghee to humne kabhi use kiya nahi hai. Okay, they asked the production people, "Aap kya ghee use hota hai? Sir, ghee hum log kya use karenge jaakar?" So 1 second case detected by department clearly through the data. You take second one. HDP user taking credit on PVC. Suppose there is a HDP trader is there, for example, or HDP manufacturer is there, whatever it is now basically. Suppose he takes both HDP and PVC, I mean, what you call it, those items, both are completely different classification there. Somebody can come. The last one, groundnut oil manufacturer or groundnut oil traders taking credit on castor seeds. Very interesting. It's a live actual cases detected in Gujarat. I was talking to Commissioner GST in Gujarat, and they found number of places now because groundnut oil, there are a number of people in Gujarat who are manufacturing groundnut oil. But on groundnut oil, the groundnut, which is the basic raw material, basically, they know GST on that, being agri products only. So what they were doing on castor seeds, there is a GST there on river charge basis. So they will take the credit on castor seeds. You got my point? And use that credit for paying duty on the groundnut oil. Now, there is a separate classification for the castor seed and separate for groundnut oil. Somebody look at it the input and output, even if he is a trader, the castor, if you purchase a castor trade, you can't sell the groundnut oil. You are a manufacturer, you purchase a castor, how can you sell the manufactured groundnut oil? Look at this type of case now. Department have the plethora of information. This information is available. Based upon that, they found beautiful cases. That in 1 second, you have no choice. When they go to the taxpayers, in 1 second, you have nothing to say. People might be thinking we are smart enough, so we take the data. But now, department is capturing so many of information. So it's becoming very difficult for people to hide the things also. Okay. So now let me take the next one now. Okay, I missed this slide should have come earlier. Very quickly, I'll tell it now. Organization of Central Board of Indirect Taxes. There's a range where the inspector and superintendent sits. There's a division which is headed by assistant commissioner. There is a commissionerate which is headed by a commissioner level officer. And there are two important wings, anti-evasion wings and audit wing. This anti-evasion wing, this is known as enforcement of preventive wing. They take the raids cases, search cases, they are interested with job. Audit wing is the people now, they will be auditing in future to you. There will not be any separate assessment. Audit will be doing so-called assessment in future. They will be coming, audit people will be coming to your premises, your taxpayers' premises. They will look into the records at their premises and they will do the audit cum assessment. Directorate General of GST Intelligence. This is equivalent to your investigation wing of the Income Tax Department. Now, they are the people, they have separate office and they got a last all India jurisdiction. This fellow sitting in Delhi can book a case of a taxpayer in Mumbai also, or Mumbai fellow can book a case of a Cochin fellow also, or vice versa, whatever it is. And their pure job is the investigation wing, and very excellent type of officer. Director General of Revenue Intelligence, DGRI, they are, you can say, equivalent to the DGGI people. DGGI people will look into GST cases. DGRI looks into the customs cases. Number of times your clients may be called by DGRI people. And Director of Data Management, they are very important people because they analyze a lot of data, they develop a lot of reports. Those people I'll be referring. Whenever comes, I'll explain how those people are working. So you should know this one, that whenever suppose there is search is going on, done by division people, by commissionerate people, by DGGI people, who are those people? Based upon the type of people, you can come to know just the level of gravity of intelligence is there. Suppose DGGI people is there, naturally, they have a lot of information. So the gravity of case will be very strong as compared to division people or anti-division people. So those you should know broadly. Now, let me come to the very important aspect of IGST refund on exports now. These are the large number of cases the department has booked, and some of your clients, their refund also might have been put on the block. It is sometime in 2018 they started putting what they call blacklisting of the exporters based on certain basis, and then investigation might have been done by the GST department, and then they might have given the clean chit or no clean chit, whatever it is, and then their refund might have been released. Very broadly, what happens now? Whenever a person exports the goods, he got two choices. One is that he can pay the tax that's called IGST and then claim the refund. Second option is that he can export the goods without payment of any GST under what they call LUT system, letter of undertaking, or on giving a bond. He undertakes that I'm exporting the goods, and after export of goods, I will give a proof that goods have been exported. I have received the foreign exchange, and based upon that undertaking, the goods are allowed to be exported without payment of duty. For today's discussion, our concern is that when the people are exporting the goods on payment of IGST, even though payment of the tax is in the nature of IGST, refund of that IGST is given by the customs people. The specific power under the IGST law has been given, IGST rules have been given, where the custom people have been given the power to sanction the refund. So what happens? The exporter files a document called shipping bill. On that shipping bill, he mentions that, yes, I paid the IGST. And the moment he filed the shipping bill and the goods leave the country, a system of something called LEO, let export order, is given by the officer. And thereafter, next month, the same exporter files his GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 both. So once the information given in GSTR 1, 3B, and the shipping bill matches, the refund of that IGST is automatically credited to the accounts of the exporter. Most of you must be knowing it. And this period is hardly around 1 to 1.5 months period from the date of export. So there the getting refund is much easier. No interaction in the department. You just file the shipping bill and money will come to your account. Considering this nature of the refund, many people have tried to misuse this facility. Now, what they try to do it now? They will try to pay the IGST using the input tax credit. And that input tax credit, suppose it is availed based on the bogus documents, then immediately the money come in cash to you. And by the time department comes running to you, the exporter is nowhere in the scene. So what happens? I'll just quickly, in large number of cases, the people create bogus forms in the name of drivers or peons or employee or somebody or bogus name. What you'd need? You just need a one PAN. If you have a PAN card, a PAN number available with you and some address proof, which you can address proof, you can easily get it, some brand receipt, you get it, you get address proof. With that, you take GST registration. And with that, you also take IEC, Import Export Code from the DGFTs. It's an online process. No one comes to your verification. Online, you take some PAN number of some driver, etc., get a GST number, get your IEC code, and you are a nice, happy exporter. And you know, online refund, not 15, 20 days, you get 1 to 1.5 month time, you get a report. So on paper, somebody say that I've exported goods to Dubai and goods have been exported on which I paid the values of say 5 crore rupees and my duty liability IGST by 90 lakhs rupees. And for that 90 lakhs rupees, you got, on credit available with you based upon bogus bill. Suppose it was A, B, C, D, E, because the maze is created and many of the chartered accountants are found to be involved in this creating maze. There were A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E. You are E, you're exporting the goods. And by the time the department reaches the A, it's too late. So the exporter used that credit available to him through the bogus bills, pay the IGST, and within 1.5 months, you get enriches by 3, 4, 5 crore rupees, and it vanishes. He closed the business, closed the shop. Now, closes firm within 3, 4 months after getting the refund. Keep turnover less than 5 crore to avoid arrest. Now, this is the very important new modus operandi department has found out now. What's happening now? That under the GST for the arrest, the minimum amount of tax to be evaded should be 5 crore and above. In order to avoid the arrest, the people nowadays are keeping, they're not turnovers, I'm sorry, this is keep the tax amount of less than 5 crore rupees now. So at least they can avoid the arrest. But now I found the DGGI, that's the Directorate General of GST Intelligence. They are trying to find out who is the main person behind this clubbing 3 or 4 or 5 companies. They club the turnover, they are arresting people also now. This has happened now. Bombay has happened, somewhere else also happened there now. So if the people think that, yes, keep the turnover of 3 or 4 firms, less than, not turnover, the total amount of GST evaded, less than 5 crore. So if I can avoid the arrest and then I can see notice will come and I'll fight the notice and that I can do it. But I think it's a wrong impression because department is clubbing the turnover of the tax from various firms also there. While investigating now, one method I told you, they take GSTR1, GSTR3B data, and then find out, suppose you are a, non-filers. Then they go further. You are a non-filer, A is non-filer, A is sold to B. Then they go to B to C, C to D. That creating linkages has become so easy now because A will file GSTR1, suppose, and not file GSTR3B, no problem. But B will file is again in GSTR1. C will file GSTR1, D will file GSTR1, E will also file GSTR1, because without that, they can't get the refund now. So everybody has filed. So catching, going backward from A to B, so going forward from A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E is much more easier nowadays, because now the tool department has developed it. The important part is that department developed the tools, yes. Even somebody might be thinking, I've created 10 labels from A to whatever, I or J or H or I, and E, suppose I fellow is a person who's getting a refund, and he will think that by the time department come to reach up to A, okay, they all will manage. No. They may even catch you within 3 to 4 months time even. You don't require more than 3 to 4 months time, even from I to A, reaching I to A also. That's an important point. Now, during investigation, even department has found out during investigation that suppose a person has created 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 firms which are exporting the goods by using the so-called fake invoices and getting the IGST refund now. Those times they found even the freight forwarders or the CHA, customers agents, were also same, because naturally people are doing the fraud. They would try to keep limited number of people in the loop. So even the same CHA or the same freight forwarder is one of the indication. Yes, these 20 firms are exporting, and all the 20 people exporting through same CHA, same freight forwarder. There appears to be some problem there. So this is another aspect they are doing. They're trying to find, because CHA number has to be on the shipping bill. They also come to that. Next is coordinated study by investigation team of customs, GST, and data analysis wing to find out exporter. This was done sometime in 2019. Then there was a, customs from DGRI, I told you earlier. GST was the DGGI, I told you. And data analysis wing, I told you, the Department of Systems or Data Analysis. All three put together, their data were matched. And then they found out, they took out list of, I think, 300-400 exporter, suspected exporter in the country. And then all 400 or 500 people, their records were verified in great details. And from that record, also department was able to find out some cases now. This was about the IGST refund of exports now. The new modus, recently they found a new modus operandi. Instead of showing as export out of the country, people are showing as a supply to SEZ. And some of you might be knowing that supply to SEZ is also treated as export, for the purpose of IGST refund. So suppose I'm a manufacturer, I show the supply to SEZ, then I can claim the same benefit which I get for the purpose of a normal export. Some of you must be knowing that this number of SEZ have become defunct in the country, because the whole concept of SEZ could not pick up. You had Nagpur, you had Pune, you had in Bombay, a number of places. You found a Surat SEZ, a number of places the SEZ came into picture. They could not find much takers because the government withdrew some of the benefits there. Some bogus, so these are idle SEZs. So what the people have done it now, they started showing sale to the so-called idle or defunct SEZ now. Okay. And once they show that I've given to SEZ and then get the cash refund, close the shop after 7-8 months and vanishes also. There also department nowadays they have developed some tool wherever the people are getting the refund by showing a supply to SEZ, immediately they check, because once I show the supply to SEZ, the SEZ registration number has to be given. And SEZ registration numbers have a particular suffix or at the end or start something by which you come to know registration. This is the SEZ also that. Now, from the SEZ department, know that these are the SEZs who are defunct. So immediately just find out, okay, this fellow's claim a refund by showing export to X SEZ unit in Nagpur, for example, or in Pune, for example. Now, they just go to back data and find out whether this SEZ is filing their returns to the SEZ authority. No, it means there is some problem there also. So this is the another method by which bogus export, even to SEZ department, has noticed it and detected it also. Service export cases. This is the very, very important thing happening, because if the people exporting goods, there's some chances of getting caught by the custom people, because when they export, they say, yes, I'm exporting certain goods. They say I'm exporting ready-made garments, and suppose t-shirt value 1,000 rupees per t-shirt. So, and on that, suppose they paid the IGST and claim the refund. So custom people can also check, okay, it looks like 1,000 rupee ka t-shirt. Okay, let's open the C, and they found it the 20 rupee ka t-shirt. So there is still worries there basically. Somebody may say the export of the t-shirt 1,000 rupees. Somebody say I'm exporting the watches of 2,000 rupees. There is market mein jaakar ka 50 rupee ki watch aapko road pe milti hai. Those type of things happen. So they are a little worried. Sometimes even the custom people may catch them also. So what to do? Let's do another thing. Show the export of the services. I've exported IT services. I exported a consultancy services. I was exported, advertisement services. Whatever I export, who's going to see? Services, what, paper? Something online मैंने भेज दिया जाकर के. So how to catch? So this is the one area, service of export, where many people have found. I found one of the case in Bombay sometime 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago perhaps. Some film producer, I think, came in newspaper also. And he found to be in this sort of a bogus export and of the services basically. And there again, he got a lot of bogus bills. He got it by which he got the credit, and then he showed that I exported the services to some country in Dubai, or I don't know what countries were there. He was a film producer, very well-known film producer. I think some political agenda with the prime minister or something was there. I think some name was that only. I don't know what exactly. So there again, it was found that he was showing the bogus export of services and bogus purchases, and based upon that, he has taken the credit and used that credit for payment of IGST on export of services and claim the refund also there. So there, what happened? Now you will say, sir, you're telling all the cases. How did department detect such type of cases? That's the point we are discussing. One of the area what department has been doing now is that they see that suddenly a new person has come, new registrant, and his turnover is very substantial. I've taken registration today, and next 3 months my turnover is 50 crore per month, 100 crore per month, 200 crore per month. So department is getting, the offices are getting such reports. There are two types of reports. One is that after taking registration, a substantial supplies are there, amount of supplies there, or an existing registrant, suppose his turnover every month 50 lakhs, 1 crore, and suddenly his spike is there. In 3, 4, 5, 6 months, he's showing 20 crore, 30 crore, 40 crore, 50 crore rupees. So those abnormal type of things, department is getting this. So if there is abnormal supplies are there, coupled with suppose the exports are there, it gives an idea to them. Yes, there could be some problem. It's not that all people are chore, all people are doing something wrong, but his hint is there. So then they can look backward now. Let's see from where he has got the credit. Is the backward verification gives some clue. So the abnormal supplies by any person for 2-3 months, new registration or the existing one, gives a lot of information to the department. There is a potential that there could be a fraud there. Now, okay, okay, no problem. I think this I've already covered, butter manufacture, etc., etc. Cases of substantial higher GST invoice value on which IGST paid and claim as compared to after declared. I'm not leaving each other. Mismatch between EV and interference that bills have been lead inference that only the bills have been issued. Okay. Nowadays, a mismatch between e-way bill and GST are one. Transaction leading to inference that only the bills have been issued now. Yes, that of course you are knowing that e-way bill has been issued and no GSTR1 is there. That's again common now. Let's come to another point. Okay. Now let's come to continuation of bogus bill issue now. Now, encashment of accumulated ITC, issue of fake invoices, especially for services now. Suppose I am a company, I got some, say, 5 crore rupees of input tax credit available with me, because suppose I'm a manufacturer and initially I have, got a lot of input tax credit because of the capital goods. It's a genuine capital goods, nothing wrong into that also. Because I set up the plant, I got some 2 crore or 5 crore rupees of the ITC available with me. And I may take time, 2 or 3 times, 3-4 years time to use that ITC now. Because my turnover may be less, because at the same time, my normal raw material is also coming now. So I'm accumulating that ITC for that normal goods, normal services, for everything I'm at the same time, I hold 5 crore of ITC of the capital goods is there, for example. Now. So, and suddenly I found that what should I do? My 5 crore, I'm sitting idle in the books, I'm not able to utilize it. So somebody comes and give advice, chalo sab ek kaam karte hain, let's give some bills, bogus bills, somebody want the bills. So let's give a bill and we'll pay the GST through the accumulated ITC. So we can encash the ITC. That's also happening in some cases now. And especially when you give the bill for the services now. So services, nobody can verify what exact service is given unless the case is taken up for investigation. So those type of cases also department have noticed where the accumulate for encashment of accumulated ITC, people are using the bogus bills for the services. Many service transactions also detected on the repetition. And this circular I was referring, circular number so and so of 17 June 19, directing stoppage of export refund by custom authorities. Even bank accounts were attached in a number of cases where 400 to 500 people were selected by the department and their cases were scrutinized. That is the first area of what I've done. Now let's come to the very important area. First was that only bogus invoices are there. Now how the department is second, especially that. It is supply without invoice, a complete without bill, do number ka kaam, what we always call it now. We supply the goods, no invoice are raised now. You will be really wondering that, sir, is that really possible? How the department can detect? I sell the goods, I get cash. How the department can detect? I appreciate a point that how the department can do it. But that's the whole issue now. In the GST, since the data of suppliers available with the department, therefore, your sale can also be monitored. The best part will be that first point what I mentioned there. Bombay, I think all of you might be knowing Manish Market and nowadays some other areas. A lot of imported goods and stuff are being sold. And these are the hubs where, goods are sold in cash. Now, prior to introduction of GST, there was no such monitoring available that how much people have imported the goods. And against that import, ultimately how much sales were being made, which were not accounted for. There were not much because the imports were monitored by Customs Department. The further sales were monitored by the VAT Department. One was central government, one was state government. They were not talking to each other. Even if officers were talking to each other, the system was not talking to each other. There was no such sharing of data now. Now come GST, thus come the whole issue. Suppose I have imported a goods worth say 1 crore rupees, say some consumer goods, chocolates or electrical lightings, whatever. I import from say Nhava Sheva JNPT in Mumbai, and I'm sitting somewhere in Chhattisgarh or Indore, for example. Prior to GST, whatever I made a goods from the import from the Bombay, I'm selling in Indore in Madhya Pradesh. Nobody will come to know whether I do cash or not show cash. I import 5, 6, 7 consignment. I just close the shop, close that firm, and I sell everything in cash here, and I use the cash for whatever hawala or whatever. But in GST, that's not possible. Even if I'm importing from Maharashtra, port in Maharashtra, say in JNPT, when I import, I have to give my GSTN number. And that GSTN number has to be Indore GST, Madhya Pradesh GSTN number. So my custom data captures that I'm sitting in Indore and importing from Nhava Sheva. What the department is doing now, all the import data is being shared with all the states now. So if Sushil Solanki has imported goods worth 1 crore rupees from JNPT, the data will go and sit or will be available to the officer of GST officers of Madhya Pradesh. It may be the central GST officer, it may be the state GST officer. So data suppose goes and sit with Madhya Pradesh GST officer, and they found, yes, this gentleman Sushil Solanki from Indore have imported goods worth 1 crore rupees, say in the month of, say, September 2020. And they say goods are some of the consumable goods. So Sushil Solanki might have imported for the Diwali sale, Diwali festival now. So they see the returns of Sushil Solanki from Indore, and they found in October no sale, November no sale, December also reached almost no sale. If he has imported the chocolates, but the chocolates have gone. Chocolates can't remain for more than 3-4 months. And he is not filing his GSTR1 returns, GSTR3B returns. He can catch hold of it easily nowadays. And for your information, I can tell you, this study was made sometime in even as early as 2019. And I was talking to one of my colleagues in the department. And as for his information, he was saying that this comparison of the data from the bills of entry in the customs and the data from the same person's GSTR1, his estimate was something 500 crore rupees of GST evasion was there. The people have imported the goods, assuming suppose 10 or 20% even value addition. That much value of the goods people have not shown as a sale in their GSTR1 and 3. So this is the data. Compare the import data from the customs with the sale of GSTR1 and GSTR3B, and there you find people are not showing it also, mostly in consumer goods cases. Another important part now we'll realize now, this may happen to some of your clients also. You compare the purchase data from the GSTR2A and compare it with the GSTR1 and GSTR3B. This will be illustration, suppose, and that happens number of this, most of the medium type of the small and medium, type of businessmen. Let's take a simple example. There's a shop which is showing this selling the electrical goods. So he's buying, suppose, the fans also, or coolers, or whatever. So he's buying from the big company, and that big company is showing a sale to this gentleman, suppose sitting in Gujarat or Rajasthan, wherever. Suppose Rajasthan is a small town. So my town of Jalore, suppose, for example. So, for example, this company, Usha or Havells or whatever, they have shown that they have sold the goods rupees 20 lakhs to a person sitting in Rajasthan in Jalore of 20 lakhs rupees. But this gentleman sitting in Rajasthan, suppose he's making cash sales. So earlier, what was happening prior to GST, you could purchase from those people and make the payment through taking out DD or whatever it is now. Keep a separate bank account and make a payment. And he can keep showing his sales in cash. Doesn't reflect in VAT returns also. But now it's not possible. Because in the GSTR2A of this person, there's a purchase of 20 lakhs rupees. As against that, suppose there is no sale. Why 20 lakhs? Suppose his total purchases as per GSTR2 of suppose 1 crore in a year, whereas he's showing in GSTR3B and GSTR1 total sale of 30 lakhs rupees only, he will be caught. So this is the another reports the department generates. They try to compare the purchases for GSTR2A and the sale as per GSTR1 and 3B. Let's see what the mismatch comes. And there are mismatches, and they are able to catch hold of those people. Next point, returns are filed, but only part credit taken or part utilization of ITC credit. Same point, which is the earlier point. I purchase a goods of rupees, say 20 lakhs rupees. On which suppose the credit of say 3.6 lakhs was available to me, but I don't utilize that credit. I utilize only the credit worth is 1 lakh rupees. Somebody will be wondering that if my credit available to me is 3.6 lakh, why am I utilizing only 1 lakh rupees? This also gives to a indication that perhaps some of these goods is selling is not reported in the books. The second part, next, non-filers GSTR 3B or GSTR 1 or both. If they are not filing, the chances that whatever the goods they purchase, they might be selling it without documents also. E-way bill detail comparison with GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B also may show the case of unaccounted sales. Okay, so those data comparing with E-way bill data, compared with GSTR 1, data are available with the people, with the departmental office. Let me come to next now. Sale without invoices, again the same category I'm doing it here. Clandestine removal again. Report of purchase from ERD and sale to ERD. This is a very important report available now. For all the people, how much purchase they're making from ERD and how much sales they're making to ERD. From unregistered dealers, purchases from ERD and sale to ERD. These two reports are available to the department now. So you might be wondering, so what happens with that also? It's a very important thing I can tell you now. Suppose, let's say the purchases side now. Suppose a person is having a lot of purchase from ERD. It can give an indication now. I will not say this is a clear-cut case of some sort of evasion by the supplier now. Or suppose a person is making to ERD. One case the people have detected, where suppose a manufacturer was making, a wholesaler was making a sales to the URD people, B2C. Say for example, a cement manufacturer or cement wholesaler is there. And now he's showing a sale to a person who is B2C. Means the buyer is not having the GST registration number. The question is the buyer, and if that quantum is big, suppose a manufacturer, cement manufacturer, cement plant, he says he made a URD sale of 10 crore rupees. Immediately the doubt arises in the mind of officer. It means the buyer appears to have sold that goods in cash further down. Are you getting my point? Why a manufacturer should make a B2C sale, or why a wholesaler should make a B2C sales only? B2C can be made by the retailers only. It means the person who has purchased the C, so-called C, in turn, he is making a further cash sales. So this is the indication they got in this particular case now. So if your client is making, if he's a organized person, he's a manufacturer, he's a wholesaler, and then still they are showing some B2C sales, the question can be asked to your client whether he is also involved. Who is the people to whom you sold it now? Well, and of course, the buyer is one person, or suppose your client is purchasing the goods, which he says that he has purchased from somebody, and there's a B2C type of a sale, a purchase, I'm sorry, then there is an indication that something wrong can be done also. So in the case of B2C sale, the department will try to look into this, who is the C. They will ask him the bills. Okay, give me the invoices to whom, who are the person to whom 1 crore or 2 crore or 5 crore worth of goods you have sold, and that is not a registered person only. So that gives an indication. Now, this reports what I'm talking now. It's a new reports available for cancellation of e-way bill with time bands. How many e-way bills a person have cancelled, and within how many time, in 1 hour, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours. Reports available for cancellation of e-way bill by the transporter's frequency. If a transporter who generate the e-way bills, and then he's canceling. Give me the frequency now. These two reports give some indication to a department. Suppose a person is there, even a trader, he making the e-way bill, and suppose the tendency or the frequency of cancellation is very high, department may have a look at them. Point here is they get reports available to them. That's the only point I want to highlight is there only. If suppose somebody tendency that let's make a e-way bill, let the goods reach to particular place, we'll cancel the e-way bill afterward. They may be taking a big risk also in that case. Because the reports are available to the department. Such tools available to find out. This is the most important from the chartered accountant. Please keep in mind now. On one mobile and one email, how many registrations are there? Because during investigation, they found where are the people have used the one person, one accountant, one office from where 20 or 30 or 50 register, I mean 100 register. I remember one Calcutta case where from one same computer, because they are able to track even the what number they call it, IP code. From IP number, they're able to track even for the same computer, 100 people have taken registration. And possibly suppose by mistake, they have given the one email or one mobile also. They were able to track it also. The information on the same mobile number, how many registration have been taken. During investigation, they can find it from same computer. Of course, nothing wrong. A chartered accountant can take registration for 1,000 people. Nothing wrong. Absolutely no wrong. But if any person, a company or anybody else has involved in this creation of bogus companies from same place and filing returns to all the people in one place, the possibility of getting caught is much higher, because then they can track it, which IP code, which mobile, which email. On one email, suppose there are 40 people are available, it's much easier for them to find out. I'm just telling the indications available to department now. That, yeah, these are things from which they can, yes, there is a possibility of something going wrong also. I discussed a report available high value transaction by new registration. I've already discussed with you now. So suppose a new registration is there and suddenly start showing 50 crore. I mean, every month 5 crore, 10 crore, 20 crore, and 5 months, suppose 50 crore rupees of turnover. The so-called bogus bill people also there only. That available report is available with them, which that they can find out there is a possibility of bogus bills in those cases. Okay, I'm not going into that. Quick, please select how the department is. You know what happened practically? If I see, as I was initially mentioning in my listing, around 30 to 40% people are not filing the returns now. So in a commissariat, suppose there are 10,000 registrations are there, and out of suppose 2.5 to 3,000 people are not filing returns. It's next to possible. It's simply impossible for a department to analyze the 3,000 people. So out of these 3,000 people, who are the probable evader? So they have to select. So out of 3,000, they would like to concentrate upon 100 or 150 cases only. You got my point? So how to select those 150 people rather than wasting time in 2,000 people? Unfortunately, department is wasting time on 2,000 people nowadays, because they simply send this email to everybody. Please send your sales data, send your purchase data. Please compare this, compare that. We found this is matching. And then this year harassment comes and all other things happen there also. The right way is that they should have the capacity to select out of this 2,500 people that real probable offender of 250 to 300 people, and then go after them also. So anyway, they got some tools available with them, which they're doing it. I'm not going much into that. Now come to the next point is the time is what, 12 o'clock. Okay, 20 minutes. Okay. The transfer of credit permanently or temporary. As I mentioned, you suppose anybody has got accumulated credit of 1 crore, 2 crore. Some cases have been found out where they try to transfer the credit either temporarily or permanently. And for that, what they do, issue of sales invoices and later on reversal of transaction by issue of credit note to transfer credit temporarily. It's possible that a person is having a 5 registration in 5 states, and he find that there is a credit available in one state, but the second state he has to pay in cash. So what they do, they just make a sales invoice from A state to B state, and later on just to transfer the credit. So temporarily the same money can be used by the B state registration. So there's a liquidity issue. So they can use that money for the time being, and thereafter the reverse transaction also there. If accumulated credit, issue only invoices to transfer credit within the same registration, or group companies people do it also there. They just transfer the credit by making some bogus bills. Identify cases of substantial credit and supply to related person. The post department is doing this, taking this basis. The substantial accumulated credit was there, and there is a supply to related person. Department is looking into those cases. Composition dealers. Okay. As all of you know, in the case of composition scheme, the input tax credit is available on purchase. No ITC is available on purchase of goods. So what's the tendency? They will try to purchase the goods without the GST paid invoices. Naturally, why they want to buy with the GST paid. But as I mentioned you, now there is a report of URD purchase and URD sales is available. So from those reports, department is able to track it now. So suppose a composition dealer is showing that he has purchased the goods from somebody on which no tax is paid. And number of times department noticed that many of the people who have opted for composition scheme, most of their purchases are from URD only. So that's clearly give an indication. The person who has sold so-called goods, he might have given the GST invoice to somebody else. So that gives an indication to the department that yes, here there is some possibility of some problem is there. Analyze the quantum of non-GST paid purchases would indicate purchase against bogus invoices and diversion of tax paid invoices to other taxpayers. The GST4 returns, if you have this column 4C, this capture purchases from URD. So this I was talking about the same thing, department do use the data. There could be cases of GST paid purchases that reflect in GST at 2A, but not shown in the composition dealer returns that I already discussed earlier. Even All India study can be made, is being made sometime by department that total composition dealers are showing how much of purchases from URD. That gives indication to them that is something wrong is going on in the case of the composition dealers. This is the important thing. Please give a special attention to this particular slide very, very carefully now. There is something called REIC, Regional Economic Intelligence Committee. Who are the member? GST commissionerates, that is center and state both. Central GST commissionerate, state GST commissionerate. There is a representative of customs also sit in that meeting. There is an income tax representative, representative of ED, Enforcement Directorate. RBI people are coming, you must be very careful. SEBI people are coming, CBI people are coming, EOW are coming. Now, what is the purpose of this meeting? Purpose of this meeting is that cases booked by every agency is being shared with other agencies. So the case is booked by the GST. They will share with income tax, they will share with ED, they will share with CBI, they will share with EOD. The same case, suppose the GST case, and it's a bogus bill case. Income tax is directly linked, no doubt about it. The CBI and EOW, they will look from the money laundering, from PMWA. ED will look from PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Same case can be picked up by 4 or 5 agencies. The life of a person can become miserable, I can tell you. And nowadays, this committee has become very active. So there is a guidelines that all cases involving tax evasion of more than 1 crore are shared. Even a case is made by CBI, they share with the GST. Cases booked by income tax, they share with the GST, or vice versa, everything. So please keep in mind, I'm telling you, nowadays, if a person is caught for one evasion, one place, his life can be really be miserable. I mean, not one agency, the remaining agencies can come up after that. Last one, what I'm showing you, the CTR and STR, cash transaction reports, suspected transaction reports. The 2 types of reports are generated by agency called FIU, Financial Intelligence Units. They get the data. They got a mandate to get the data from all the banks. All the banks are supposed to send them these two reports: cash transaction reports, suspected transaction reports. And FIU analyze those reports, and wherever necessary, they share those reports with all these agencies: GST, custom, income tax, ED, etc., etc. What is that report? Let me say what is CTR, cash transaction reports. If in a particular bank account there's a regular and substantial amount of cash transactions are taking place, for which the customer doesn't have any reasonable explanation, those transactions are reported by a bank to the FIU and FIU to the other people. There may be cases where genuine cash deposits takes place, like a petrol pump. There can be farmer's account or some other account where the cash transaction can take place. No problem. The bank knows very well this bank account pertains to a petrol pump dealer where the cash happens there. There can be bank person, there can be hospital, there can be cash. But other than suppose the normal businessman is there and suppose he is doing a lot of cash transactions, suppose depositing and withdrawing, the bank is duty bound to inform the FIU. FIU in turn will just quickly have a look at those accounts and refer to the income tax, GST, ED, and those people will again look into those accounts and try to find out. Especially the bogus bill people and all other people who have a lot of cash transactions, those people can be caught by this particular report. The second is suspected transaction report. In some cases, even though the transaction is through the banks, through the check, what I call it, even that case, if the transaction appears, suppose in my account, suppose there is a deposit of 1 crore rupees by check. Sometimes the bank person may call up and tell you, sir, this 1 crore rupees from where you got it. I can say, sir, I have sold my, my sales, my shares are sold, or my property has been sold, or whatever it is. And they'll say, okay, it's the property registered. Yes, sir, registered. Okay, fine now. But suppose they are not able to get any proper answer, then though type of an unexplained transaction of a substantial amount, the banks are supposed to inform to FIU, and FIU in turn does inform to all these agencies. There are two reports by which lot of scrutiny is done about the transactions of the people. Now come to the arrest provision now. Now, the section 69, which empowers arrest. Let quickly go through basically. Arrest in serious offenses like supply of goods without invoices. You have issue of bogus bills, availing ITC on such invoices, tax collected not paid. These are the 4-5 important reasons for which they can arrest, but not for like suppose there is ITC availed by somebody on there is a dispute. I mean, you can say that it's available to me as per provision. My interpretation, department may say, no, not eligible to you. Fine, no problem, you can fight, but nobody can arrest you. But yes, if somebody has taken the ITC based upon a bogus document, they can arrest. Somebody is collected and not paid to department, yes, it can be a reason for arrest. And recently, even though I think last week, challenge was made. I think it is at Gujarat High Court, or Chennai High Court, I think. They have upheld because one of the I think single member bench of High Court has had raised certain doubts about arrest power. But again, the High Court of Gujarat or Chennai, I suppose, they upheld the power is with the GST officer, and there should be reasonable belief that yes, some sort of this offense has been made, and based upon arrest can be made there. And where the tax involved is more than 5 crore rupees, arrest can be made. These are cognizable and non-bailable offenses. When I say non-bailable, cognizable, and non-bailable, if it is more than 5 crore, the department officer cannot give the bail. Bail has to be given by the court only, basically. But where the tax involved is 2 to 5 crore rupees, it can be, it will be non-cognizable and non-bailable offense. And bailable offense, bailable in the sense the person will be arrested, but the bail can be offered by the departmental officer only. So don't think that if it's less than 5 crore rupees, it will become a blot. You may not be sent to the police custody, but of course on record you have been arrested. So when the record goes to other agency like banks and everything, it can create a lot of problem. In rest of companies, somebody says he was arrested and allowed on bail. So less than 5 crore can create a sort of a stigma or a lot of other problems in your case. And Supreme Court in Sapna Jain case has already, what do you call it? They upheld the arrest provision of as held by Telangana High Court now. On this point, what Manish has, Mr. Gadia has raised the point that number of times the department is using this harsh provision of arrest in normal cases, and there's a big threat for blackmailing and extortion and rent seeking and everything. I do agree that wherever such provisions are available, whether it is a X department, Y department, police or non-tax or tax department, these are being misused now. But the question is what to do. I would suggest only one thing. In cases where you feel that your client, there is a threat for arrest and really the client has not done anything serious, there can be interpretation issues, no problem. Somebody may say that by mistake, I'm not paid the tax. It's not my intention was there. Or I've taken the credit, my intention was not there, basically. You can see, and there is an interpretation issue. As per my interpretation, I'm eligible for credit. You may say not available, but that can't be reason for arresting me also there. And there, I would say only one thing, that is try to approach the senior officers. Go and talk to them. Don't restrict yourself to the low level officer who are threatening. Go and talk to them. Senior officer, take time, immediately go and talk to them. Sir, I got this problem. I've been threatened. These are the facts. Please listen to me. I can say you 60, 70%, 80% chance. If you go and meet with the genuineness, if you think that just by meeting a senior officer, you're going to scuttle the investigation, no. Then it will go reverse. But it's a human psychology again that you go and meet somebody's bosses, then he will try to book you for a harder thing. So you should be genuine enough. You should go and meet a senior officer, tell them, sir, this is the thing. Yes, something wrong has happened, but this not because of intention, because of not having knowledge or whatever other reasons are there. So please excuse me. I'm willing to pay the tax also there. Something happened there. So that can help you out and say 60 to 70% cases. You may go to the additional commissioner. You can go to commissioner. If you're not satisfied, go to meet a chief commissioner also. Nothing wrong. So but that requires a very quick action because once the arrest order has been given, that's very difficult to withdraw it also. So that time talking to those people can help you. So that's the only practical tip I can tell you. And no need to worry basically when the people are being called for investigation. I mean, I agree. They do harassment takes place. They call you in the morning, make you sit in the evening, 1, 2 days, 3 days time. But you make your own limits. Yes, I can tolerate up to this particular limit, not beyond that, because I'm innocent. But even though innocent does not mean that, yes, sometimes happens by mistake, something wrong is done, but no intention basically. I mean, I know the number of times the e-way bills, they catch them on the road and then say this information is not filled up properly or item something wrong has been done or something. So these are all unintentional things. There was no need for anybody to become be little defensive in this case. If you are genuine enough, if your client has not done something, have the guts, go and talk to those people and say with confidence. So no, this is wrong, sir. My intention was not, it happened. Like tax, somebody, I have missed to pay the tax, missed to file the return, missed to write something in the document. Look at my history. If it doesn't agree, sir, you give me the number of next person. I would like to go and meet him, sir, explain my case. So that's the only way you can, avoid such a harsh action in those cases. And such harsh action most of the times is used as a tool, very frankly, I'll tell you. As a tool to harass or, whatever is basically. So that time you can say if you're genuine enough, you should have guts to go and represent your clients properly. And it can help. It's not that all the officers in the department are bad. Senior officers generally, they will listen to you. They will try to help you out. At the 60, 70% cases I think they should be helpful to you. So that was regarding the arrest provisions. Reports available. I'm just ending with this, Amil. Almost time is now. 1 yeah. Okay, no problem. High value transaction by new registration, I already told you. Search tool, I told you, 1 mobile, 1 email, how many registration. Valuation, same HSN per unit valuation by different person. Now they're getting this report also. GSTR 1-3B different, they're getting a report. Exempt to total turnover ratio and reversal into 42, 43, they're getting. I hope you will getting what I'm talking about. Suppose your exempt to total turnover ratio is say 20%, but reversal 42 or rule 42, 43 reversal is less than that, they can find out this also. HSN wise purchase and sales, they're getting, even though it's not part of GSTR1, they are getting it. E-way bill, cancellation report, they're getting. Non-filers, all returns with produced delayed period, if any, they're getting those reports. Taxpayers paying substantial through ITC, they are getting a report. Risk profile of a taxpayer, the 10 risk parameter, they're getting a report. Constitution-wise tax reports, individual, how many, HUF-wise, firm, company. Taxpayer migrated to and from jurisdiction. This is very important. Sometimes what happens, people play smart. Some problem happened in Mumbai. Okay, let's change registration and go to the Pune or go to the Gujarat. But they are getting a report where tax people are, because they think that by changing jurisdiction, my investigation will also get shifted. I've tried to see, no. Taxpayer migrated to and from jurisdiction, they're getting a report also. Cash to credit ratio. Top taxpayer making exempted supply, sorry. So these are the only things. I mean, I think I called 20 right time. I think we are able to close it up. These are my mobile number. If anybody want to have any time, any clarification want, most likely we can talk. Okay, thank you very much, I think. And we can take the question now again. Anybody, Deepak or Nikhilji, anybody want to take the questions, we can take.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Nikhilji to take the question answers.
Yeah. Okay, so till now we have only two questions from the same participant. He is Mr. Puneet Gupta. His first question is that there is a trend in the GST department to somehow classify every export of service as intermediary or not export, thereby denying refund of GST. They openly state that it is difficult to verify the genuineness. So we will reject and you can get it in appeal. Sir, what do you have to say about this trend?
This is not happening for all services, very frankly. The few services, this problem has happened now. It's not all the services this is happening. If Puneet can give me the example, I can help you on this, how to go about it now. And it's not all the commissioners, only the few commissioners I'm aware of that, where the officers have taken little, pro-revenue stand. But if you tell me Puneet can tell
this is happening more in the VAT side. The VAT officers, the ex-VAT officers, the service tax officers are fairly comfortable with the concept of services.
And this, services.
Yeah, but the VAT officers are taking the view that they somehow will try, because these services will be performed only in India and then exported. Because if I go outside of India and provide the service, then there is no question of GST being applicable. So what their always stand is, oh, your service is provided in India, so it is, how can it be export? Or they will say, no, you are, there are a lot of services where it is impossible to have a flat fee. So you go on a cost plus basis. So in especially where the billing is based on a cost plus criteria, they say it is a reimbursement of expenses and immediately say that it is intermediary services.
I got your point. Now I'm getting from which industry you are coming. I mean, I got your point completely, especially this. Many of the companies in India, they work like a KPOs or support centers for the foreign multinational companies. There, the cost plus business is done there only. And there, they always feel that it's a performance based. So if the performance was done in India, so how do you ensure that it is consumed? It was meant for a foreign country now. I agree. I do agree complete, Puneet, on this point that such type of things. The solution, it's a question of lack of training and lack of confidence by those people because they are handling this particular area first time. The best way could be that I would suggest you through your association, maybe through ICI, a representation can go to the Commissioner VAT and even copy to the Chief Commissioner CGST and tell them that we are facing this problem, that number of places our cases are being rejected. So either for the few common type of industry, a sort of a circular or clarification can be issued, explaining that these are the cases where it should be treated as export. These are cases where it can be treated as a what you call it, intermediary, and refund should not be given. So this work ICAI can take up, and it's not as something very difficult. Your ICAI people through various associations, they are meeting the commissioner here regularly, Commissioner VAT also, Commissioner State GP also there. And if necessary, the same representation can go to center and CBIC also, making that, yes, we are facing this problem. Somebody can rake even the GST Council also, they can make a reference, but somebody has to make an attempt only. Because not only in Mumbai, this case, Puneet, what you're talking about, this is happening in other states also. Mumbai, at least some semblance is there, but if you go to other places, same problem they're facing it. So only solution is that some sort of a clarification comes from the CBIC, because state government will not get, they don't have guts to, issue clarification, but they are always afraid that, understanding services is a complete new area for them. So you make a reference to GST Council, and of course it will come to the state department. Then some sort of a commonly type of services, which cover 70 or 80 type of this type of services, a clarification can come. That's possible. Because otherwise teaching, of course, otherwise your association, I mean, ICAI can go and tell the sir, let us hold some sort of a training program whereby some of the officers, even I am willing to give the lecture. I keep going to the various state governments still also. I can go and give a lectures, or even the ICAI people, not many people are there, or the central GST training department is here in the Bandu. They can organize. So you can tell them this particular area, please let us have a 1 day or 2 day training program. So it can be clarified to them also. These are the practical way. Otherwise, I mean, even if I say it's the amount to export, that's not going to help it, because the officer is not willing to help. So it's a question of enhancing the capability of the officer, either through the training or through the instruction. These are two, ways.
Okay. Puneet, I think Manish Gadia ji has already requested you to connect with him so that he can take the matter with ICAI.
So Puneet ji and Solanki sir, I also need your help. So once Puneet ji will prepare something, I will come to you for vetting, and then we will take up this matter.
No problem. No
Through
problem.
IRC to the regional commissioner, and then through ICAI.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can be done.
Thank you, sir.
Great. So the second question has also come from Puneet ji only. He says that the vendor of a party was investigated for bogus bill. The vendor readily admitted that part, not all of his sales is bogus. Based on this, the GST department has issued show cause notice to all his customers that their purchases are bogus, even though GSTR1, e-way bill, bank payment, etc. are in place.
Yeah.
And the goods then resold to other parties were proper with e-way bill, GSTR1, GSTR3B, etc. Yet the department is still pressurizing the party to admit that the purchases from the raided vendor are bogus. These pressure tactics are the ones that are.
I know. I'm aware of it. I mean, this is a very, very common, and Raipur, Belapur, many commissionerates, it's happening there. I'm aware of the cases also. I mean, such type of cases. Even DGGI is doing it. That's a Ballard Peer Office. Those people also investigating. So only way is that, suppose you got a purchase of suppose 1 crore rupees. And out of that 10 lakhs, suppose, is really the bogus. You say, yes, we agree, so this mistake has happened from us, and we are willing to pay the reverse credit also. But as far as balance is there, we don't agree, and we are willing to give you all the. But you say show cause have been issued.
Puneet, can you come online?
Puneet, if the show cause have been issued, then why do you worry then?
Puneet, I think he's mute.
Okay.
Puneet?
Yeah.
If the show cause have been issued to you,
Yeah.
then why do you worry? Then who is pressurizing you now?
The people who are from the department, so I really don't know who the person is, but the client is just contacted.
The point is that if the show cause have been issued, then need not to worry then. Absolutely nothing to worry basically. Then we are going to reply it also there. Then need not to worry then. Because pre-show cause notices, they can threaten you, I will arrest you, I will get me this document, I will check your customer also. This all sort of threat will come there also. When the show cause notice has been issued, the investigation is over now. Now the threat can't come it now. Then you have to, he has to bear it basically. He has to go and talk to somebody. If required, they can go to some senior people, they can talk to the department. Say that this has happened, sir. What a mistake if that happened. It has been admitted. For the other payment, please don't pressurize us also.
So it is not always true that a person who has done maybe 10% bogus, the other 90% also should be put through this kind of
You know what happened? The department will always try to see from that mask. No? Once the filter they put up, they say the 10% is a bogus filter. They will try to use the same filter for all 90% also. They will do, and while issuing show cause notice, they will take on their head now. उनसे सबको लगा पूरे 100% लगा दो जाकर के, अपने क्या जाता जाकर के. And even if you say, they will not believe you. वो लग नहीं कैसे भरोसा करें आपका.
So what is the evidence person can give? Because he has no photograph, the goods were actually transported, but then e-way bill is there, the bank payments are there, proper tax returns are filed. So what else? Just because one vendor is saying that I made some bogus, and I think that vendor is also pressurized to admit that he had some bogus sales.
No, suppose you got other evidences, and other evidences you said that e-way bill is there, but along with e-way bill, suppose the transporter's LR is there, and suppose tomorrow if required, transporter is willing to confirm that yes, goods were exported by me from the buying side, and the selling side also, because same goods you have purchased it, you must have sold to somebody, or
Right.
or might have used for manufacture, type of client, whatever you got it. So if you have both sides, selling side also, you got LRS also, transport documents are there. In that case, you can see that you verify. What else I can verify to you now? Goods have come to me. It might, sometime what happened, I'm realizing that goods are going out and out. You purchase for somebody, bill to ship to transaction. It does happen. Goods may not even reach to a godown also.
Right.
It's a very common practice. No? It's nothing like, because some people come to me and they are real afraid, sir, e-way bill to banaya tha, lekin humne goods humne leke nahi aaya. Problem what the people have done it, while making e-way bill, they do the mistakes now. While making the e-way bill, they show that goods have come to your client, and then client has sold it, whereas goods have gone out and out. So there is a bill to ship to provision. So
Right.
by mistake, it's not intentionally somebody had done it. By mistake, because they were not aware of the system. तो आपका जो सप्लायर था उसने आपके नाम पे ईमेल बना दिया, फिर आपने ईमेल बना कर आपके कस्टमर पर दे दिया, whereas goods have gone directly. So you admit it, sir. This mistake has happened, sir. It's not that, but mistake क्या हो मेरे से? Mistake मैंने ईमेल बिल बनाया था मेरे से ना. I made a wrong email bill, me and my client.
It's more like a clerical mistake.
It's a misunderstanding only, sir, because somebody misguided me कि भाई मेरे को ऐसा बना जाकर, मतलब आप verify कर लीजिए जाकर. I mean, transporter है, my customer जिसको माल मैंने बेचा है, वो जाके बताएगा. It's not that everybody in the chain will talk the same thing also. So try to, department office सुनेगा नहीं बात. No, you have to collect the evidence and now for preparing for reply to show cause notices. That's the only way. You
Right,
can,
right,
then
sir.
you can tell the free, I'm willing for a adjudication. Please decide adjudication. But adjudication में आपको facts बड़े strong चाहिए इसमें आपको. बस इतनी बात है.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Thank you, sir. There's one more question is from Chandresh Shah. Is I think what he wrote intending, but what I believe he wrote is indenting agent in India. Is he liable to GST if he gets the amount from overseas suppliers in USD?
Yeah. Indenting agent basically the same question what initially I think Puneet raised it, I think. No? Puneet raised regarding some, that outsourcing work, and he's talking about this indenting is a commission agent basically.
Yes.
If he's a commission agent, yes, he is a part of intermediary only. So his case will not be covered as export.
But if he gets the amount from overseas supplier in
Yeah.
US,
Yes, still.
he still has to charge them IGST.
Yes, he has to charge them correctly. This is a very peculiar case, but because he is getting the money from foreign customer, he is getting money in foreign currency. It's not treated as export. It looks very odd, but it's a matter of fact. It's a law is like this only. All these people had gone to the Gujarat High Court also, and they filed a pill. Of course, I have told them no, but anyway, they filed a pill now, and pill or writ petition, and that was rejected. And now the review, I think the Gujarat High Court has heard about it now. So that's a point. But they have to pay. Liable to pay.
I have one peculiar question. 2 years ago in January 2019, one of our clients was raided by the GST department, and till date it has been almost 2 years. They'll complete their second anniversary in January of 2021, but they've not completed their investigation. They've not issued a show cause. They've still blocked their accounts. So isn't there a time limit that they should be following, or they can go independently?
See, effectively they get 5 years. And now, of course, they are getting more than 5 years because the law says section 73, 74, I suppose, 74, I suppose. So they say now the time limit is what? Within 5 years from the date of filing the annual return, the case should be adjudicated. earlier in the old law, excise and service tax and even the customs, the time limit was for the purpose of issue of notice. Within 5 years from the whatever XYZ dates were there, they were supposed to issue the notice. But and there was no further time limit provided in the law for decision of the case, what we call adjudication of the case. In the GST, they put total 5-year period for the purpose of issue of notice and for the purpose of adjudication together. That's a legal provision now. Unfortunately, our case is what happened. Even the annual return dates have been extended. 17, 18 का कब किया उन्होंने 19 में कुछ किया ना मेरे ख्याल से what of the dates I don't
Yes,
do
sir.
compliance, so जो भी date होगा उसमें से, so they got a huge period now. That's a law basically. Now practically coming to that now, also because now otherwise they can issue show cause notice sometime in 2022 to you also. और 22 का केस करके आपको फिर वो जा करके 22 में 1 साल में डिसाइड करवा देंगे आपसे, ठीक है ना. So legally you can't work. But you told me 2 things now. They have not finished the investigation. Is there any time limit? There's no time limit in the law. Even administratively, they say you should try to do as early as possible. Administratively, also there are no such guidelines are there only. The third point you raised that they have blocked their bank accounts, which is a complete illegal thing. It's a complete illegal thing. And for that, what I suggest you, if the money is lying there, not able to do the business, immediately go and talk to, send your letter to the senior people, maybe the commissioner. If he doesn't respond, write to chief commissioner, write to the board. Then let us see, because of course next they go to high court. But high court, I generally I don't suggest my people unless the money in involved is quite high, because it's time consuming and it requires a lot of expenditure also there. But by raising these 2-3 levels, I think the solution you can get it, because it's a complete illegal act. There's no provision except there is something called provisional attachment, okay, which is not in your case, absolutely. And there too also time limit has been given the law. So attaching bank accounts is a complete illegal act. There is no provision in the law whereby the officer is empowered to attach the bank accounts. So write to senior officer, go step by step, one level, send a mail, wait for one, send one remand, doesn't go to next fellow, next to next, somebody will listen to you. Don't worry for this. That I'm quite confident about it. We can make them listen. That's what I can assure you.
Thank you. I think there's one more question coming from Chetan Bum. If in case the search took place and now section 65 audit also invoked for the same period, will both proceedings follow?
Yeah, it can follow. There's no bar that even audit is done, the search can't take place. If search takes place, audit can't follow. Both can go simultaneously. 65, no?
Yeah, section 65 audit.
Let me see. Okay, audit, normal audit. They can do. No problem. There's no such bar.
Yes, sir. I am having one question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I am having one question. There is one dealer and he has purchased the goods from a genuine person. There is supply of goods and there is supply of service proper.
Okay.
And by through clerical mistake in 1819, the vendor has not put the GST number of the purchaser.
Oh, shit.
Okay, in the GSTR1 actually. So what remedy does the dealer has now? Will the ITC be allowed or not, sir, in this case, sir?
कब का केस है? 2018 का केस आपका ना?
हाँ सर, 2018-19 भी है और 19-20 भी है सर. 19-20 की सितंबर की डेट तो चली गई राइट नाउ. तो स्टिल द डीलर हैज, जो सामने वाले जो वेंडर है उसने GSTR1 में डाला नहीं है, जो एक्चुअली डीलर का GSTR नंबर डाला नहीं है.
नंबर डाला मतलब B2C शो किया उसको.
Yes, एब्सोल्युटली B2C शो किया है.
B2C में शो हो गया गलती से उसका.
Yes,
provision for amendment of the GSTR1 now. Okay. बट वो उसका टाइम लिमिट वो भी मेरे ख्याल GST अमेंडमेंट भी आपको सेम अप टू नेक्स्ट सितंबर
सर टिल सितंबर वो भी सर चला गया राइट नाउ.
आई एम अवेयर ऑफ इट. सी अगर बड़ा अमाउंट है आप ले लो, व्हाट आई सजेस्ट यू लेकर के ओनली थिंग क्वेश्चन इज दैट यू आर कैरिंग द लायबिलिटी ऑफ इंटरेस्ट नाउ. ओके, तो एक काम करो, ले लो, डिपार्टमेंट को इन्फॉर्म भी कर लो. आप लेकर के अभी तक लिया नहीं उसने अभी तक, राइट ना? उसने अभी तक ले लिया था
सर, वो तो ले लिया. आईटीसी तो सर क्लेम कर लिया ना सर इन द रिटर्न. सर आईटीसी तो
क्लेम कर दिया. नाउ इट्स क्वेश्चन ऑफ लीगैलिटी ओनली ना.
एब्सोल्युटली सर.
आई वुड सजेस्ट यू, देखो सही तरीका क्या होगा, आप डिपार्टमेंट को इंटीमेट भी कर दो जाकर, कुछ नहीं सर मैंने ये मेरे से ये हुआ है बट उस वक्त डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं आया था एंड नाउ पार्टी आल्सो कैन नॉट डू बट वी गॉट ऑल द डॉक्यूमेंट टू प्रूव दैट आई हैव रिसीव्ड द गुड्स आल्सो देयर. ठीक है. व्हाई आई एम टेलिंग द टू रीजंस आई एम टेलिंग कि एट द मोस्ट डिपार्टमेंट आपको एक लेटर बना के कहीं भी आप यदि या तो एक्शन नहीं लेता मान लो तो ठीक है आपको, तो टुमारो नोबडी कैन चैलेंज सप्रेशन अगेंस्ट यू कि विदाउट जीएसटी टू आपको नहीं लिया आपने। उसके बाद सपोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट बोलता है आपने गलत लिया है, तो आप रिवर्स कर लो उसको, सुनो मेरी बात, रिवर्स करो, इंटरेस्ट मत भरो, एंड देन यू फाइल अ रिफंड क्लेम, यू फाइल अ रिफंड क्लेम आल्सो,
ओके
रिवर्स इट, सो यू आर स्टॉपिंग योर इंटरेस्ट लायबिलिटी फॉर फ्यूचर आल्सो नाउ, ठीक है। इसके बाद रिफंड फाइल कर दो आप ये बोलो कि डिपार्टमेंट के कहने से मैंने रिवर्स किया, बट आई वांट टू क्लेम बिकॉज ऑल माय डॉक्यूमेंट्स वर देयर, एंड आई एम वेरी श्योर बिकॉज डिपार्टमेंट का खुद का एक इंस्ट्रक्शन था 2019 का, नॉट भूपेंद्र गुप्ता का था मेरे ख्याल से, उसमें इज मेंशन दैट यस even if the GST amendment reflect नहीं किया, you can take the credit. That was in the context of exporter. Exporter के context में refund के context में बताया था ये. I'm very sure in days to come there might be some judgment allowing you this credit, saying that initial period था कुछ mistakes हो गया जाकर के GST amendment नहीं, because ये substantive right, it can't be done away because there was a mistake on the part of the supplier. अब सप्लायर को लेटर पर मेल वेल डाल कर रख लो जाकर के, और सप्लायर का रिप्लाई भी लेकर रख लो आप पास में कि मेरा मिस्टेक हो गया तो मेरा आदमी था नहीं, आई एम विलिंग टू डू नाउ, इफ यू टेल मी, इफ द डिपार्टमेंट परमिट आई कैन डू राइट नाउ आल्सो, आप लेकर रख लो उसके पास में जाकर के, एंड डिपार्टमेंट को लिख भी दो कि माय सप्लायर इज विलिंग टू इवन एंटर नाउ ओनली, बट बिकॉज ऑफ दिस प्रॉब्लम ही इज नॉट एबल टू डू इट नाउ। तो अगर डिपार्टमेंट अगर आपको कुछ नहीं बोलता है आपको लेटर के अगेंस्ट में, कीप क्वाइट अबाउट दैट, सो टुमारो व्हेन दे आस्क यू कैन से एटलीस्ट आई इन्फॉर्म द डिपार्टमेंट, माय इंटेंशन वाज वेरी क्लियर ओनली। Suppose they ask them, no, आपने इससे wrong, you can't take the credit, okay, you reverse it, file the refund claim, let refund claim का litigation चलता है, 2-3-4 साल में कोई ना कोई judgment आएगा, आपके फेवर में आ जाएगा। This is the practical solution I can tell you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank you very
sir,
much.
one question from my side.
हाँ बताओ।
Sir, if 9C is wrongly filed, तो उसका रेमेडी क्या है सर? फॉर्म JSN तो बराबर था सर, जब ये अपलोड किया तो सर थोड़ा रीग्रुप हो गया है। When we are giving the balance sheet items, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस आइटम का जो बाइफोकेशन देते हैं ना, तो उस केस में सर क्या करेंगे? मैंने
लायबिलिटी बढ़ती है,
अभी लायबिलिटी बढ़ नहीं है सर, वो गुड स्टोलन का कॉलम में कहाँ गया गलती से? 1,45,000 का है।
नहीं तो बिल्कुल आपने गलत शो कर दिया, 1,45,000 रियल में कुछ लायबिलिटी नहीं है ना आपकी?
नहीं है सर, एज पर प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट कुछ है ही नहीं, सीधा है।
तो एक काम करो उसका ना, यू डू वन थिंग, सिंस देयर इज नो प्रोविजन फॉर रिवीजन, ठीक है ना?
यस,
आप एक 9C नया बना लो पूरा, और डिपार्टमेंट को इंटीमेट कर दो कि बाय मिस्टेक, बाय फीडिंग के टाइम या अपलोडिंग में जो भी आपका मिस्टेक हुआ है वो आप लिख के दे दो उसमें जाकर के, एंड दिस हाँ बताओ
सर। एक ग्रीवेंसेस में मैंने डाल दिया है, तो उनका रिप्लाई भी आया मेरे को नेक्स्ट डे कि भाई ये तो अभी रिवाइज रिटर्न का प्रोविजन अवेलेबल नहीं है, तो आप कर नहीं सकेंगे। नहीं
तो ऐसे करो ना, दैट्स व्हाट आई एम सेइंग, अब उसको आप मैनुअल बना लो उसको आप जाकर के,
ओके,
सही आपका होना चाहिए आपका, ठीक है ना?
ओके,
मैंने बना के डिपार्टमेंट को इंटीमेट कर दो बाय मिस्टेक मेरे से हुआ था, और आई हैव ऑलरेडी इंटीमेटेड टू द ग्रीवेंस सेल एंड दिस रिप्लाई, जस्ट कीपिंग यू इन्फॉर्म्ड, बिकॉज़ I mean, I do not hide anything, very frankly, basically. So, my mistake, okay, this is the correct one. I don't have any legal problem. I mean, mechanism available for me to revise it. So, I am giving you the correct one. Take for record.
ठीक है।
डिपार्टमेंट में जाकर देखे आज जो मान लो वो नहीं देता है मान लो, तो फिर आप एक स्पीड पोस्ट से भिजवा दो उनको जाकर, एंड कीप द रिकॉर्ड अवेलेबल। आजकल तो मेल है, सबका मेल आईडी अवेलेबल है आपके पास में।
राइट सर,
तो आप मेल पे भेज दो उसको, ताकि रिकॉर्ड में रहेगा हमेशा के लिए आपके पास।
ठीक है सर, ठीक है, ओके, थैंक यू।
ओके, no problem.
Anybody else has any other further questions? I think your presentation has been so lucid that there's been a lot of clarity of things coming from the other side, which not many people were aware of.
Okay.
So I think since there are no more further questions, I, on behalf of Andheri Oshiwara Study Circle, immensely thank Sushil Ji to take out time from his busy schedule and give us an insight on what the department looks into from all the angles, and looks into the businesses and how they look into, and what is it that we as chartered accountants should be enlightening our clients in case they think of doing something wrong. अगर आप ये करोगे तो ये उनकी नजर कहाँ पर है. So thank you so much for all the time spent, and a very, very lucid presentation, and a detailed step-by-step view as to how the department is looking into things, and how many departments are interconnected. And I think in times to come, more departments will get interconnected. And the data mining technology that is being used by the government is to another level that even.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, sir, for all
Okay.
the.
Thanks, Amish. Thanks, Nikhil. Thanks, Deepak Bhai.
I would request everyone to carry a hearty vote of thanks to.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
sir.
Thanks,
Thanks
Manish.
for taking
Gadia
your
sir
time on
also.
Sunday.
And I thank Manish ji to also take out time today and come and grace the event on behalf of ICAI. Thank you very much, sir. And we hope something good comes out of Puneet
Yeah.
with the help of ICAI. So please keep us updated.
Thank you. I will leave it. Thank you.
Thank you.